Welcome back. In this lecture, we will be discussing on Agile software development process. Before getting into today's lecture, the last lecture we discussed topics on extreme programming, XP. Extreme programming process in software engineering is a prominent Agile software development methodology that is designed to improve software quality and responsiveness to changing customer requirements. So there we saw it is achieved via frequent and short development cycles through continuous testing, close customer collaboration, and even by engineering practices. We saw communication was very important among the customer stakeholders in order to eliminate the misunderstanding. That is, interaction between the developers and customers have to be done properly. As well, we have to encourage the extreme programming process. So now we will be discussing on agile practices in detail in this lecture. Before getting into that, we will first see for what these agile practices will be used for product development and research oriented things. And the software process followed here is agile software development. The methodology that is adopted is Scrum framework. Tools that are needed for the Scrum framework are MS Planner, MS Teams, OneDrive, Forms, Notebook, that is OneNote, to-do list, and even SharePoint. In the next lecture, we will be discussing on how the Scrum framework is being adopted via MS Planner tool. Now, before getting into the Agile framework, first we should learn why the traditional approach is not suitable for real-time projects and why people have chosen Agile methodology for such projects. In traditional software development methodologies, such as waterfall methodology, generally the progress is linear. That is, starting from your planning, designing, implementation, verification, and even in the maintenance stage, the progress is only linear. In each phase must be completed before moving on to the next one. Also, the specifications and requirements have to be given at the first stage itself, and customers will not be allowed to give the requirements in the middle. After the complete project is done, only then a deliverable is given to the customer. Also, each phase must be completed before moving on to the next phase. In such linear approach, this often leads to lower success rates and even higher development cost, because when you found the customers' needs are fluctuating, that is, their needs are changing over time, then obviously it is very difficult to be achieved. Then what is Agile? The project management approach that involves breaking the project into phases and emphasizes continuous collaboration and improvement. The team always follows a cycle of planning, execution, and evaluation. Not only one step, it is a cycle. So that is why your project is broken down into small pieces, small phases, and in each phase, planning, execution, and evaluation will be done. That is why Agile practices focuses much on keeping the code very simple, testing very often. Once after the small piece of code is even completed, testing have to be done. Delivering the functional bits of applications under each phases. You split down your complete project into small scrums. So under each phase, you will be delivering a product. An agile project is completed in small sections called iterations. The main benefit of having such agile project management is its ability to respond to the issues that may arise throughout the course of the project. Even we can make the changes in the project at the right time, and this saves the resources and time. Ultimately, this helps the project to be delivered within the timeline and within the budget. That is much more important for a software project. If you look into this figure, it is a time box iterative development model. So here we will initiate the project. We will first define the requirements. The customer is going to define the requirements to the project lead, to the lead. And the development 1, 2, like the complete project is broken down into small phases. That is why it is development 1, 2, 3, like that till end, and the product will be released. If the product is not accepted, if the customer is not happy with the product, then we have to again go back, implement the changes of what the customer expects. We have to address, we have to track again the project, take to the next iteration, again do the same. If it has been accepted by the customer, we can just deploy it. That's it. So the iteration time is a time boxing technique, and it is a practice of fixing the iteration end date and not allowing it to change. Usually, the Scrum methods recommend that each time box can be exactly at least 30 calendar days. So, if you look into this Agile Manifesto, first manifesto is people and interaction over the process and tools. So, taking care of the process and tools are important, but than that, interacting the interaction between your customer and the team is much more important. The next manifesto is information based. That is, the contract and negotiation is least important than the customer collaboration that is going to be happening. The next one is Agile will not support for a very huge documentation. It is flexible. So Agile supports only on the working software and not much on the comprehensive documentation. The next manifesto is following a plan. So Agile tells you that, yes, in order to achieve the deliverable, so having a rigid plan is not much needed. A flexible plan responding to the changes which your customer expects is much more important than having a rigid plan and getting a outcome out of that. Now let us see the 12 agile principles. The first principle is satisfy your customer. That is given highest priority because satisfying the customer through the early and continuous delivery of your valuable software is very important. The next principle is welcoming the changes. Whenever your customer gives you some changes in the requirements, even at the late development stages, agile process gets those changes and harness those changes in a competitive advantageous manner. That is why agile principles welcome the changes. The third principle is delivering the outcome frequently. As already given, the objective or the product outcome will not be delivered at the end. Your complete objective will be broken down into several sprints. Delivering the working software frequently from a couple of weeks, that is a sprint, to a couple of months via a preference, or it is even the time scale, right? The timeline is a flexible one, but delivering the outcome frequently is very important in agile principle. The fourth agile principle is working together. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project, which is more important under agile. The fifth principle is having a support. So building the project around motivated individuals is very important. Trusting them and building a support is priorly needed to get the job done in Agile principles. Sixth principle is face-to-face conversation. It is the most efficient and effective method of conveying the information or the requirements face to face under your development team and having a good conversation on daily basis. That is why daily Scrum meetings are much important in Agile. Seventh principle is working software. Working software is a primary measure of progress. And if you see, the principle also accompanies a sustainable development. That is, Agile process promotes sustainable development to be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely because users should use in sustainable environment. The ninth principle is continuous attention on technical excellence and very good designs, which enhances the agility on the basis. The 10th principle is maintaining simplicity. Make sure you keep your outcomes of each sprint very simple. The art of maximizing the amount of work is not good, whereas keeping the work done is very simple and getting the outcome is more effective. The 11th principle is self-organizing teams. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge only via self-organizing the teams. The last principle is reflect and adjust. Agile motivates much more on feedback. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective and then tune the adjust its behavior accordingly. Let us now discuss on Scrum framework. This slide shows you the Scrum framework. That is, it starts with the stakeholders or the customers. Here, the stakeholders communicate their requirements to the product owner. Product owner communicate that to the development team and the Scrum Master. If you see, first, we will make a product backlog. Under the product backlog, all the user stories will be present. And this user stories will be implemented based on sprints. So which user story should be implemented first will be dependent or will be decided based on Moscow principle, based on the priority, based on the importance of the feature or the user story. Accordingly, the sprint planning meeting will be happening and the sprint backlog will be set up. Sprint backlog has sprint 1, sprint 2. Each sprint will have several user stories. And if you see, sprint is nothing but 1 to 4 weeks. The 1 to 4 weeks a sprint. After this 4th week or after this timeline of a sprint, a deliverable should be provided to a customer. Sprint goal should be achieved. If you see under this, after this goal is reached, you will go have a sprint. You will go have a sprint review, right? So that is nothing but a sprint review will be happening, but on daily basis, daily stand-up meetings will be happening. After the sprint review, if you see, if there are some gaps, the sprint retrospective review will fulfill the gaps. What has to be done? What is the gap and what has to be done to fill the gap? All these will be carried out in sprint retrospective. Similarly, each sprint will be completed so that the complete product will be delivered to the customer. This is a Scrum framework. So first we'll discuss on Scrum roles. The Scrum team consists of one Scrum Master, one product owner, and developers. So within a team, there are no sub-teams or no hierarchies. There is only one team one Scrum Master, one Product Owner, and there can be several developers. It is a cohesive unit of professionals focused on only one objective at a time. This is only a product goal. So here we will be deciding what we will be doing at that time, when we should complete, and how are we going to execute that. Now, who is a product owner? A product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of product resulting from the work of Scrum team. So the product owner here is accountable for effective product backlog management, developing the explicitly communicating the product goal, creating and cleverly communicating the product backlog items, ordering the product backlog items, making sure the items in the product backlog are transparent, visible, and easily understood by the team. Who is a Scrum Master? The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team in several ways. He helps the Scrum team to focus on creating high value increments that meet the coaching team members in self management and cross functionality. This causes the removal of impediments to the Scrum team progress. Make sure the events occur positively, productively within the timeline. Then who are the developers? So developers are the one who are going to develop the complete project and will be even testing the product. I told you sprint. Sprint, the timeline of a sprint is 1 to 4 weeks. The sprint is a heartbeat of a Scrum where the ideas are turned into value. They are fixed length events of 1 month or less, usually around 1 to 4 weeks. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. If you see, the work under sprint are nothing but first, we will be following product goals, sprint planning, daily Scrum meetings, sprint review, sprint retrospective review, and all these happens within the sprint. During every sprint, make sure the product backlog can be refined and the quality will be more and the scope will be much more clarified, and this will be satisfying the customer. What is a sprint planning? So sprint planning is very important and it is a collaborative work which happens inside a Scrum team. Inside a Scrum team itself, the product owner will ensure that everybody will discuss, so what is the product backlog and where each user story should be kept inside the product backlog. How are we going to map the product backlog to the product goal, and which user story will be completed first and which user story will be fitting into which sprint. All these will be discussed under sprint planning. The next step is daily Scrum meetings. On daily basis, the complete team will be discussing on what has been done, what is an outcome of that day, what will be done the next day. So daily Scrum is a 15 minutes meeting for the developers of the Scrum team. This is to improve the communication, reduce the error, and consequently this eliminates any issues, which promotes quick decision making. If the product owner or the Scrum Master are actively working on every sprint, then obviously quick response will be happening within the team. Sprint review. What is a sprint review? So in a sprint review, the Scrum team presents the results of their work to the key stakeholders and the progress towards the product goal. What will be the outcome of each sprint? That will be discussed with the stakeholders. So after every sprint, the team should be giving a deliverable to the stakeholder. So showcasing their deliverable to the stakeholder after each sprint is called as a sprint review. Let's take there are 2 sprints, then 2 sprint review will be happening. And the team will be showcasing their deliverables to the product owner. Then what is sprint retrospective review? After the sprint review, suppose if the stakeholders are not satisfied or if they feel there are some changes to be needed, then the Scrum team discusses what went well during the sprint, what problems it encountered, and how these problems should be solved. How they can incorporate the changes in the upcoming sprints. The sprint retrospective review concludes that particular sprint. So for every sprint, there will be a sprint review as well as sprint retrospective review. Now, let us discuss on Agile requirements. If you see Agile, it requires first an epic. What is an epic? A larger body of work. A larger body of work is an epic. The next, what are the features? Features are characteristics. And it should take several sprints to complete a feature. What is a user story? A user story is very important in Agile. A user story captures a manageable body of work that should be completed in every sprint. For example, let's take sprint 1. Sprint 1 can have several user stories. That after every user story is completed, there should be a deliverable. It describes a desired result from an end user perspective. What is the task? Task captures a manageable body of work that should be completed in a single sprint. So in a single sprint, what are the tasks? It describes a desired result needed by another delivery team to support the completion of a feature. What is a defect? Defect is a system error that is being found during a user acceptance or even during the production. Finally, a subtask also can be under a task. Usually, a subtask should not be more than 15% of a sprint duration. If you see, epic, feature, user story, and task are very important under Agile. But than these, it starts with the requirements. As the last lecture defines about requirement engineering, we saw requirements can be user and system. The business requirements are the statements of goals, objectives, and outcomes that describe why a change has to be initiated. These requirements will be given by a stakeholder, and this are nothing but the needs of a stakeholder to meet the business requirements. Usually, the business requirements will be of 2 things. One is functional requirements, and the other one is non-functional. Functional is for a particular input, what will be an output, or for a particular situation, what will be an output. Whereas non-functional requirements are the constraints of for each input or for each situation. So this decides even the quality of the service requirements. Now, let us see artifacts in detail. The first one is product backlog. That is backlog refinement. If you see here, it starts with a vision statement, a product map. Then you have to create an epic, a detailed user stories. You have to mention what are the functional and non-functional requirements for that. You can divide that into several sprints. Let's take, if there is an objective, the objective should be divided into several sprints. So each sprint will have such things. A vision state. Sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. Here they have mentioned 4 sprints. Yes. So important heartbeat of this Agile is user story. How should you have your user story? What is a user story format? User story should have 3 things in that. Who wants it? What is that they want? Why they want? If you see, let's take a user story. As a seller on Amazon, always user story should have three things. As a I want to, so that. So who wants it? As a seller of Amazon wants it. I want to. What is that he want? He want to upload an image of the product. Why he wants? So that they can have a better visibility to the product. Your user story should have all these three formats in them. Who wants it? What is that they want? Why they want it? That is why, as a user, I want to, so that. Next, acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria are the conditions that confirms that the user story is having completed. What is an acceptance criteria? Let's see here. As a seller of Amazon, I want to upload an image of product and share it with my customers so that they have better visibility of the product. Here the acceptance criteria is I should be able to upload a file format that can be a JPEG, a GIF format, or a PNG, anything can be used. If I can upload such an image and share it with my customers, then I have achieved this user story. I have completed this user story, right? That is why acceptance criteria is a condition to confirm that whether I have completed my user story or not. So always user story should answer for who wants it. What is that I want? Why I want? That is why the format is as a I want to, so that. If you see here, as a I want to, so that. Okay. Now let's take some user story examples. So here if you see, right, the website must be available to the products. So what is the user story here for a website shop? As a visitor to the website, I want to browse all the available products so that I can see what I want to purchase, right? So let's take another thing. Let's take in terms of customer. As a customer, I want assurance that my data and financial information is secure so that I feel confident making an account and purchasing from the website. So next, where should we start with? Always, we should start with a vision statement. A vision statement will have all these four things. First thing is audience, needs, what is your product and what is the value of your product. Who are your audience? Who are your target customers or users? Next, what is a problem that can be solved by this product to your audience? What are the needs that are addressed by this problem? What is the goal of your product? The next one is product. What are the top 5 features of the product? The next is value. What is the value created by the product for your users? How is the product going to be benefited to your customers, users, and company? So always your vision statement should cover all these four things. That is audience, needs, product, and value. We should start a sprint with a product backlog. So before getting into a product backlog, a proper vision statement should be written. A vision statement should cover all these four things. And you should be having a product map also. This is a product roadmap, a sprint plan. If you see here, there can be several features, right? And there can be several weeks. Within this timeline, I should be achieving this feature. This is a product roadmap. Thank you. So in this lecture, we have covered Agile practices and its principles. We will be seeing the MS Planner in the next lecture.